Hello everybody and welcome to today's stream where we are going to look at the super powerful, super cool project settings on Scrivener. And this seems to be, project settings, that's settings, who cares about settings? But in Scrivener, project settings is actually super powerful because, the good thing about Scrivener is that it mixes a super powerful writing program with a very powerful project management program that is tailored to writing projects. So, when people tell me, should I use Scrivener, yes or no, I would say that you should use Scrivener for every complex writing project. So a writing project that takes multiple stages. And academic papers are such projects, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go through project settings. We're going to go through all of the features, but I'm only going to focus on the ones that, are useful for papers, okay? And obviously, this is how I use Scrivener. So there may be some features that you see here that I don't use at all, but that you find useful. Okay, and actually, let's start with the first one, which is here section types. Okay, so section type is are subdivisions of a paper. So you have a heading, a subheading, and a section, and basically the reason you'd create section types, so you create them by adding here, I don't know, what can we say on section type? Well, we can actually, say appendixes, right? So your paper can have appendixes, right? So the reason you use this is because Scrivener uses section types to decide formatting when it compiles your article or your text, okay? Now, I don't use compile. I just copy paste my full text into Word to then do tables and figures and so on. But if you do use compile, which is the process whereby Scrivener picks up all of the parts of your draft and creates a final cleaned up formatted document, then you should use the section types, right? So by introducing one for appendixes, what I'm doing is I'm telling Scrivener that everything that is of the type appendix should have a specific format and appear in a specific part of the paper, okay? Now, I don't use compile, so I don't use this. Now, something that I do use is the label list. So labels are attributes for any document in your paper. So I have here, let me just get that. So I could here add a label to the introduction, right? I can add a label to the theory, okay? Here it is. But I also could add a label, right, to things that are in the research folder, so not in the real document, but in the research folder, okay? Now, labels are a useful way to find things, but they are an especially good way to manage your paper as a project, to understand what you have done and what you need to do, okay? Now, we're going to go into an example of that, but before doing that, I also want to tell you about status, okay? So status is a type of label that talks about the progress of each document in your project, okay? Now, obviously, you could use this as labels too, right? You can even change the title from status to something else, but it is, I would say that the best way to use this is as a way of annotating the temporal progression of each document. So the ones that I use are to do, so I still need to write. First draft, when I've completed the first draft. revised draft when I revised the draft, then this is my writing process. I just review the text for writing quality to make it beautiful and smooth. Then I check every bit of text for grammar, typos, and text complexity. That's with ProWriting Aid and Hemingway, and then it's done. Okay, so what this does is, if you go to the outline mode, right? So I'll have here the status, right? Abstract, introduction, theory, methods, results, discussion. So I'll have this is revised draft, revised draft, revised draft, revised draft. Okay, and here first draft, first draft, first draft, and first draft. Okay, so why is this helpful? Well, first thing, it helps me keep track of what I have to do in the project. But then it also helps me prioritize my project. So I can just click on status, right? And I'll have everything that is in first draft and everything that is on a revised draft. Okay, so if I have a little bit of energy or I really feel like having a writing day where I'm really working on the quality of the text, then I can pick up one of the revised drafts and work on it. And if I have more time, I'll work on the introduction. If I have less time, I'll work on the introduction. If I have more time, I'll work on the theory. But sometimes you may just feel like I really want to dig into the ideas and think through what I've written. So I'll pick up a first draft, right? With depending on if you want to work on more substantive issues, you could work on the conclusion, easy on methods, halfway on results, right? So this allows you to, the status allows you to track progress on your paper, and it allows you to decide on what to work next, okay? Now, labels. This is just a simple example, but this is what I use in my paper. I have 3 labels. I have missing references, to-do translations, and issues to solve, okay? And these are color-coded, and I find the colors useful, right? So I tend to try and stick with cultural loaded colors like red when I want to pay attention to something, and culturally neutral colors like blue, for example, where this is just to help me understand what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so I'll just fill here. Okay. So, and let me put this in full window. Okay, so now what I can do here, right, is again, it helps me understand what I have to do. So if I'm in a slower day, I'm tired, I didn't sleep too well, I had a meeting that left me upset, I'm definitely not going to go into the issues to solve, right? I'm going to go into, translation or missing references, which is something that is, relatively easily and mindless to do. So, and again, this can be sorted, right? So I can decide, okay, I'm going to, I just have 20 minutes, so I'm going to work on the translations for the introduction. Normally, this doesn't make actually a lot of sense because translations are for data, right? So, so I'm going to work on the translations for the results. Or, maybe I have more time, so I'm going to be working on missing references. But sometimes, I just had a great evening, it's morning, my favorite time to work, I'm ready to tackle. So, I'm actually going to go and look at the issues to solve, okay? So this just allows me to further improve the information that I need to project manage my paper to this. And project management is essentially about knowing the status of the paper, how advanced you are, but also, and more importantly, to help in in deciding what you're going to work next. Now, Scrivener really allows you to show the this information in multiple places. So you can see here that in my drafts folder, I have these colored. Okay. So the way you do this is you come here. Where is this? Wait. Labels. Let me check. I missed it. Labels. Okay. Use label coloring. Okay. Yeah, exactly. So you come to view and you have use label color in, and you can check, right? Binder, icons, outliner rows, and scrivening titles. Okay. So you can use this in anywhere you need to see how your paper is going and how it is progressing. Okay. So if you go to project settings, adding a status or a label is the same. You just click, you type the name, all done, for example, and you double click for the color. We're getting a bright green because we want a culturally loaded color to know that, you know, this is done. Okay. Status, same thing. You just click and you put ready to submit, for example, and okay. Okay. And obviously, new labels and statuses appear here. Okay. Got it? So that's how you use labels and status in your project. You can also see this on the corkboard mode. The labels are here on the side, color coded, and the status is here in letters. So for me, I don't use corkboard very much because I just find that the information is there on the table too. But you know, this just allows you to have a broad overview of what is going on in the paper. And you know, the biggest advantage here is that you can write in the synopsis if you want. So if that's helpful in your workflow, that's fine. I personally just use the outline here. Okay. Now, so we've seen label section types, label list, status list. Now, custom metadata. This is super powerful. Okay. So custom metadata basically allows you to add columns here to the outliner. Okay, so you add the columns here, you just right click and pick a column. Okay, and you can enter whatever you want in the column. Okay, so for example, in the paper that I'm using as an example, I'm using secondary and primary data. Okay, so I can just say, okay, this is primary data, this is secondary data, primary data, secondary data, secondary data, and so on. Okay. Now, why is this useful? Well, I may want to look for new quotes in primary data, right? So there's no point in looking at the documents that have secondary data because I won't find new quotes for secondary data. So again, I can classify the documents here, classify and sort them so that it allows me to check what I want to do. Okay, and you can do anything. So you know, something that I don't work a lot with co-authors, but if you do work with co-authors, something that is really powerful here on custom metadata is you can add who's writing it, right? So wait, cancel. Sorry. So let's go project settings, custom metadata. There you go, and we plus here. Okay. So we can say person writing. Okay. And I'm going to say that this is a list, right? So, and so I'll add author 1, author 2. Okay, okay. Now, the second thing, and the way I do it then is going, I go here and I add person writing, okay? And I have the drop-down list, okay? Now, something also very useful here, I'll delete this one, is, for date. So the last time you worked on the specific part of the paper. That can also help you prioritize, right? So you can just say, date and put date and format, there you go, or you can have a custom format, okay? So that will insert the date. So really powerful way to add categories to manage your project, deciding on co-authors, deciding on what to work next, evaluate how well the project is going, how far away are you in the project, okay? Now, everything else I don't really use, but I'm just quickly go through everything so that you can you perhaps experiment and adapt it into your own workflow. Now, formatting, it's basically about changing the format for specific sections of the paper. This could be something for references, this could be for appendixes. In general, you won't need to use this because, if you look at format rules for papers, these are the same for all of the paper. But if you want to do that, you just click here and you use different formatting for new documents in the project, and you do the formatting here, okay? Footnote marker, okay? So footnote marker is basically about how you work with footnotes in your project. So I'm just going to do it here, okay? So normally when you insert a footnote in Scrivener, right? So you insert, and it inserts an inline footnote. This is a footnote. And so what you see is that it will highlight, sorry, what's happening? Okay, so this is a footnote. Okay? So it will highlight it here, right? But imagine that you're working on with a journal or with a book format that wants specific symbols to annotate footnotes, okay? So you go here to project settings and you say use footnote marker and you use the little symbol here, okay? And then if you insert a footnote, okay, then you have the symbol and you'll insert a footnote here. See? So this is a footnote. Okay? So in the paper, you'll have the symbol, right? And so when you export to Word, you'll have the symbol in the text and the footnote at the end or at the bottom of the page. Okay, so to wrap it up, we have the special folders. This is if you keep templates or bookmarks, if you want to keep them in a specific folder. I don't use templates a lot for when writing papers, but if you want to think about a use condition, this would be if you have, for example, a results section where you're reporting 9 different practices. If you have each practice as a separate draft section, then you can just have a template for that practice and make sure that you write them always in a consistent way, okay? And finally, background images. I don't use this at all. This is for either the composition mode, I'll show you in a bit what it is, or for the corkboard, like I showed you. And this is, maybe you want to have an inspirational quote or, a picture from your son, like I sometimes like to have, or, maybe some figure from the paper that, you feel, well, I need to have this, okay? So I'll actually show you a trick where this can be useful in composition mode, but again, I mean, your call, right? So composition mode is this distraction-free mode here on Scrivener, okay? So, and what you could do is you could have a picture that has, you know, either data or notes here on the side, so that you can use it when you use it as a background. You'll have that information. Okay. Again, I don't use this at all. I actually don't use composition mode very much, but it is a distraction-free mode in Scrivener. Okay. So that's it. So to summarize, project settings. Why is it powerful? Well, it is powerful because it is where you set up your project management for your paper. Okay. How do you do that? Status list, progress of the paper. Label list allows you to mark specific tasks that you have to do, and custom metadata basically allows you to do everything: assign work to co-authors, decide on what to work next, categorize sections of paper according to the data that they use. You know, your imagination is the limit here. Okay, so really powerful. And I guess the TLDR of this video is that you can benefit a lot if you use Scrivener not only as a writing tool, but as a project management tool for your papers. On that note, good luck for all your writing, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye, everybody.